So welcome back. We have a special guest this week. We are sitting down with Eddie Silverman. Eddie, you are an OG to me in this industry.
Don't make me blush.
I've had huge love and respect for you since I met you for the very, very first time. You've left an absolute lasting impact on me. Tell everyone else who doesn't know you who you are and what you do.
Wow. Well, as you know, Stephanie, I've been in this business for over 50 years. I started out as a polygraph examiner, and the reason why I did that was because I thought the pre-employment piece of that, while hiring security officers, would be a good way to go to make us a better company. But we started off as a small security guard service, a few guards and officers. I never like to call them guards. I always try to call them officers. And then over the 50-year period, the company just grew, out of New Jersey where it started, and opened up an office in New York. And before you know it, we had 50 offices and we started doing work overseas. And it was 50 years. But as you know, security then was a lot different than it is now. And then after just about 50 years, I ended up selling the business to a company called Allied Universal, which that's where I am right now.
So when you were in charge of SOS, right? One thing that really, really struck me was your culture. Like you and I think I've always approached what I do from a very personal standpoint, and I like to build relationships. For me, it's not transactional. And you were one of very few people that I met at your level of leadership, at your company's level of success, that lived that every day. Talk to me about the culture of that you maintained for all those years, but that still today with a very, very large company like Allied that you continue.
Well, it was all about building a team. I mean, I really emphasized getting the right people in the right place early on. And we always had a very diverse group of people that worked for us early on. So, and it was heavy into communications. We spoke about what we did, and it was always a team approach. Everybody was involved in everything that we did. And it wasn't just culture, it was habits. What were our habits? Everybody talks about culture, and culture is great, but you don't have a good culture unless you have really good work habits. And we had good habits, and we had a team that really worked well together, and it grew. And I always knew that, some people like to get the business and then spend the money. I spent the money first because I wanted to be prepared for the business going forward. And along the way, I spent a lot of time mentoring people. Even when I was young, I was trying to bring the new people along. And I do more of that even now.
You do. So your role now is global ambassador.
Right.
So talk to me about what a global ambassador does, because I think it's my career aspiration to be an ambassador.
Well, my full-time job with Allied Universal is their chief global ambassador. And really what I do is I connect dots. I'm there to help our clients. As you know, 400 of the top 500 Fortune 500 companies are our clients. And I help them navigate their way through what our offerings are. And that's my job. So I'm present at conferences and so on, personal client contact. I'm trying to keep, Allied is a $20 billion company with 800,000 employees. And the most important thing to me with the CEO, Steve, is how do we grow and still try to be boutique? How do we keep in touch with our clients? And that's really what my role is. How do I do that? And I've done a pretty good job, I think. So, and also, with the Security Foundation, I'm really a global ambassador there. It's all about networking and bringing people together, the public and private sector. So in Allied, it's in contact with our clients, helping them. And with the Security Foundation, it's really with OSAC and DSAC and getting people involved in networking and communication.
Yeah. Talk to me about that, because a few years ago, you introduced me to, at the time, ISF, which is now TSF.
Yes.
Went to OSAC week and learned all about the good work that they were doing, and was looking for just opportunities to be a part of it and help and do all of that. So talk to me about that organization and how it's evolved over the past years, and especially this past year?
Well, TSF now, which used to be ISF, was primarily responsible for fundraising, bringing resources together, and networking events for OSAC with the State Department. Now it's DSAC also, which is the FBI and Homeland Security. Those meetings bring the best of the best people together. It's all about networking, but it's really about the public-private partnership. How do we really help each other? And now it's keeping companies and people safe, not only domestically, but globally. And that's really that's our focus. That's our focus.
I love the network of it, right? Like there are very few places where an individual who maybe is the chief security officer for maybe a small company that's maybe in Iowa can come together with their peers, let alone with experts globally, and talk about what they're seeing and what they've gone through and what helped them and resources for these things. I think that the industry really, really does support itself and each other in a way, and those organizations are vital to be able to continue that.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to develop the partnership. It's so critical. I mean, if you talk about, going to the Olympics in Paris, what kind of information do you need? Where do you get that? How do you get prepared for going there? And those people that are not prepared that go there find themselves in a bad place. So, and the industry, over the 50 years has changed so much. If I go back 50 years to tell you what the security industry was like then, which I'm happy to do.
No, do please. I would love to hear.
It's so 50 years ago, it's guns, guards, and gates, really. And what were you doing? You were protecting a building. As a security officer, a guard, they called it then, that was usually underpaid, not well trained, didn't look really good. And now 50 years later, and by the way, they probably reported to a facilities manager with an office next to the bathroom. Now, security is the focal point. They are in the middle of everything, especially with technology. And the things that Prescient works on with cyber is like critical. And now you're reporting to the C-suite. So diversification in a company like Allied was really important. It was for SOS when we were running it. We went into some of those things. But over the past 10 years, that has really changed.
So over the last 10 years in particular, what do you think has been, either the single or the handful of biggest things that you've seen differently, aside from the office next to the restroom? Like what else?
No, it's the technology, and I think it's the communication and understanding of what security is all about. And it's not just protecting a building, protecting, your intellectual property is the most serious thing that you could do. The threats that we're under. So it's more than a security officer that does that. And you have to have the technology to do that. And you need the integration to do that. And what I try to do is direct our partners, our clients, where to go to get that. And for the most part, Allied has most of those things covered. But in some places like cyber, we'll come to you at Prescient, and you'll help us with those because you guys are the pros when it comes to that.
We're always happy to help, and we love partnering with you all. It's always nice when you have people that are the best at what they do. Mm-hmm. And when you put that team together and they can collaborate and kind of bring together the best of both worlds, I think the deliverable and the way the client responds at the end is always my favorite part, is just to know that we've helped them create something or protect something that otherwise, there would have been blind spots.
Yeah, and most people don't understand what their problems really are. And the only way you can really dig into them is by developing a relationship and having trust. Because when you talk about cyber, most people don't know what you're talking about. But if you have developed and taken the time to develop a relationship with your partner, then they'll listen to you. And I think over the last 10 years, that's what's happening. They're now listening to the security practitioner. And they're saying, yeah, wow. It is more than just a security officer. There's so much more to it. And the exciting thing is, which is the downside, is we're in for a tough 50 years. We don't know what to expect, but the opportunity in our industry going forward is exponential. So I'm excited about where this industry is going to go for the next 50 years. And I do spend a lot of time mentoring people, trying to get them focused on where I think they should think about what it's going to look like in 50 years from now.
Exactly. Like if you're looking at what is right now, you're already behind.
Oh, yeah.
Things are just moving so quickly.
You know,
You and I, when we first met, you taught me a concept that I've carried, your toolbox.
yes.
Talk to me about Eddie's toolbox.
Well, I give credit to one of my old friends and clients, Mike Mason, who was the CISO, retired FBI over at Verizon. And he's the one that said, if I need anything done or I need to get information, I call Eddie up and he goes into his toolbox. And the toolbox is there with our resources. And when we were a small company, we had to develop resources out of, not in our office. We had to go overseas to do that. So we either invested in companies, by buying companies, or just formed relationships with people. And that toolbox, and I share that toolbox. And I think that's the most important thing. It's not just for us, it's to share with our partners and clients. And I think that's critical. And he always knew, and our clients know, that whatever I have in that toolbox is there for them to use also. And they trust that. And if it's not in my toolbox, I'll tell them it's not there, but I know where to go to get it.
Right. No, I think that's huge. It goes back to the trust conversation, right?
Yeah.
To be able to get to that place where you're in a position of trust, where people do come to you not only for what you do well, but for your toolbox.
Yeah, it's relationships. It's all about relationships, and and that's where I've spent all of my time, really. So, I'm not really a marketing person. I'm not really a security person. I'm just somebody that likes to put people together. And of course, along the way, I've learned a lot about all those things. I've learned a lot about marketing. I learned a lot about legal, but I traveled with some people that were very intelligent, and I learned from them. And if you listen to your clients, which is the most important thing, they'll tell you what you need. And the growth of SOS in the past, and also the growth of Ally Universal, is listening to their clients and understanding what their needs are for the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Prescient's the same way. We started off very small. When I met you, we were so tiny, and you were so generous with me, with your time, with your perspective, with your introductions. You've been an incredible friend and mentor for me. I have taken a lot of that, and with the relationships and the trust, helped us create things that we've used to help our clients and other people, and to be a better partner for you, as well as other people. So I think you're kind of a testament to your own principle.
I was happy to help you because you were so caring about what you were doing, and it was my pleasure to help you. And obviously it helps our corporation because you're there for us, and it was all based upon trust, because I won't share unless I really trust. Even with our partners as the company, as SOS was growing, I didn't want to do business with everybody. If I didn't feel that they wanted the best security, it wasn't worth it, because it's designed to fail then. And that goes internally also. If you don't have the communications internally within your organization, how are you going to have it with your clients and your partners outside? So there's a lot of trust and respect that goes along with it. And, I've always been a very, very, as you know, my background, I started off as a runner, they used to call me diminutive Eddie. I was a little guy, and I was talented, but I wasn't the most talented, but I worked the hardest.
And you had a great coach that saw that in you, that cultivated that in you. My
coach, Jim Dow in junior, I was supposed to be a baseball player. My dad played for the Orioles or the farm team of the Orioles, and, he wanted me to be a baseball player. And then in 7th grade, I went to junior high school, and the gym teacher was the track coach, Mr. Dow. I ran the mile and broke the school record the first time out there. And he said, I know your dad was a ball player. We must talk to him because I think your future for the Yankees is not going to happen. So so I worked hard. I was one of those guys in high school that was getting up at 5:55 in the morning and running my 5 and 7 miles before school, going to school and then training after, because I knew that you had to work hard. And I trained with some of the best people that, a Tom Fleming, a Bill Rogers, a Frank Shorter. I ran with those people, because they were guys that did it for a living. And I did it because I just wanted to be the best I could at what I was doing. And that goes in security too. I just worked hard.
You still run to this day. You still maintain that discipline and that passion for what you do. How do you find the energy to do all of what you do, be a global ambassador and have a beautiful family and a thriving network of people that love and trust you? How do you do it all?
Well, we call our home Camp Silverman. I mean, if you don't work out, you don't eat. It's as simple as that. It's just what I did when I was young, and I just keep doing it. It's you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth. I get up in the morning, I put my running stuff on, I'm out. It's as I said, that's habit. And that's why I talk the difference between habit and culture. Habits form culture. If you don't have good habits and do the right things, your culture for yourself, you're not going to be the person or the company that you want to be going forward.
How do you scale habit for an organization, especially, coming from the small place that you started to the giant organization you're with now? How do you scale habit?
It's understanding. It's understanding, listening to what everybody's needs are and what they want to do and where they want to go. So it goes at all levels. It goes at the individual levels of the people you work with. And, at Owl, I don't really work with everybody. I work with the presidents and the senior people. But when I get involved in a project, I'll go down to the other layers and I'll talk to them and tell them what I think. And that's where the mentoring comes in, because I find it's those people that need the mentoring. And I'm happy to mentor people, and I do it all. I do it with my kids. I mean, so... I have two boys that are in the business that I'm very proud of, and they've seen the development of our company over 50 years or so, and where we are now. So I'm excited. I love what I do, and you ask what drives me. I really like what I do. I work hard at it, and I enjoy the people. And for me, it's the relationships. When you walk away at the end, it's what do you leave? You leave some great relationships. Oh, you did great work and you help people a lot, but the relations stay with you. And that's what and most of the people that I know that have retired and were clients of ours, they're friends. They're some of my best friends now because we trust each other. And we've gone through a lot together. So, I keep telling Steve Jones at Allied, it's great to grow. Get as big as you want, but act small. You have to make sure you have the right people in place to give the clients the confidence that you're still catering to their needs. So even though you're big, you could still have that boutique feeling if you have the right resources in the right place.
No, I totally agree. That's a great point. So when we look at the last 50 years, what does that tell you about what do you think is coming in the next 50 years? We've got a whole different ballgame when you start talking about technology changing the last 10 years. We now are leaning a lot more into generative AI, which AI has been around forever, but generative AI and all the technological, advances that we've had, but also a lot more activism on a individual basis. Before you had to worry about like big, powerful things taking you down. Now it can be just a guy in his basement. It could be just one lone shooter.
And it's not only that, it's geopolitical. What goes on in every country affects all the companies that we protect. So one protest or one change in leadership changes everything for some of our clients. So, that's difficult to forecast, but it's going to be technically driven. Even I always think that there will be security officers around there because you do need the people, but the level of the officers will keep increasing. They will be tasked to do different things as they are. You go into the GSOCs now and you look at the executive protection field, the security, I call them smart security personnel because they'll be equipped with, and they are now, and we do it at Allied, we have equipment that we give them that makes them smart. And we've invested $75 million in AI. So, I think it's going to be exciting to see what happens, but the risk will be different. As you know, you're worried about the water and the population. There's all those things and they create, and then where are people going to be living? Are they going to be living rural or urban? So there's a lot to think about, but if you're smart and you could think forward in our business, and the thing that I think the risk in our business is not promoting the opportunities as much as they are. We've always talked about what are the biggest risks that we face, but internally, security faces a risk because we need to promote the resources for the future. We're losing them to other industries. We need to get a bigger and better pipeline. So we need to promote what security is. Who is security? What is security? It's not a guard. So how do we go about doing that? And that's some of the things that we're doing now with TSF, and we do that at Allied, and I do that personally. And even at the school systems, getting into the junior highs and the high schools saying, oh yeah, you can become a police officer, you can go into the military, but if you're an accountant or you're a lawyer or you're a tech person, security has those needs too. So there's a lot of opportunities, and you have to tie it all together.
I agree. You mentioned mentorship and, in cyber with the skill shortage being what it is and people talking about it often. We're constantly faced with trying to make cyber look cool, right? And drawing more talent to the industry because, like, to your point, kids aren't growing up saying, I can't wait to go into security or I can't wait to sit behind a computer all day. I had a conversation today with someone that said, your job is so interesting. Like, you get to do so many cool different things. And I think that, to your point, with speaking to people and getting out in front of lots of different types of groups, whether they be people at your organization or people at schools or industry-wide events, or even what we're doing right now that's going to be on YouTube and, know, all over LinkedIn. I think it's really important to let people know what these jobs look like and what this industry looks like, and how it's not just a place you sit at a desk all day. It's a place where you build these relationships and you gain trust, and you have such a dynamic place to contribute what you have to a really important cause.
I remember years ago when one of my boys was, I don't know, kindergarten or first grade, and I think it was parent day. So, Aaron or Andrew, brought me into school, and, what do you, Mr. Silverman, what do you do? Well, I'm an investigator. So what I did was I brought a turtle in that I found on a run. I said, here's a turtle that I found on a run. We have to figure out now where it came from. And we went through the whole thing. And these were, 6-year-old kids. So it's those kind of things that you do. Yeah, and cyber is cool, but it's also tough. And it's grinding. And there's a lot of work to be done. So I think you have to promote the sexiness of it, but at the same time, the practicality of what it is that it can protect going forward. And that's the cool thing. I mean, when you talk about the threats that we have, the internal threats that are out there, what you could do. So you working together with intelligence, officers or so, whatever you want to call them, the intelligence side of it, it's critical that you guys, and security is, everybody's got to work together. It's the CSO and the CISO. As you know, we've all spoken about how all of those people have to work together to really make it work.
Yeah, a converged program to me is the only healthy program. Any program that's completely siloed still, I understand that that's a heavy lift and that may take some time, but my goal is always to bring those people to the table together, at least part of the time, to make sure they can work together. Well,
and when you bring them together, you bring those teams that they work with together, so that if the CISO is bringing in his team and the CSO is bringing their team, legal comes in and HR comes in, and before you know it, everybody's on the same page. At SOS, we had a team called Team Eagle, and Team Eagle was involved in everything that we did. So if we had a client and we were doing security officers, executive protection, fire, life safety, everybody knew what was going on.
Well, I thank you so much for spending time with me today. Thank you for coming all the way to Chicago during your ISMA trip.
Well, it was my pleasure. It's always great to spend time with you, and it was terrific being here.